Hey everybody, how's it going? Before we get started today, if you go to the community page of the main channel, you can see that we have something here. I'm going to be getting some more mugs made soon. It's kind of exciting. Check this out. Whenever Time Warner decides to load the page that I typed into my browser and enter on 15 seconds ago. Anytime now, Time Warner. Come on, Time Warner. Okay, it's been like 40 seconds since I loaded this website. Can you, please? Please. Please. Pretty please? Okay, so I got this. It says inspired by Eli's mug. You can get your own... Oh, come on, Time Warner. It's $450 a month for this internet connection. Like, seriously? Come on. Come on. This is embarrassing. This is a fucking joke. I was supposed to shill this thing in the first 20 seconds of the stream. I'm a minute and 28 seconds in. Look at it. Look at Time Warner. Just $450 a month I pay for this shit internet connection.
What the fuck? That's
Load! Fucking load! Okay, fuck it. So over here, you see the picture of the mug. It's not lying. It's commercial real estate. And you can buy it from this website. It's supposed to show up under my videos, but YouTube says it takes several days to show up. It still didn't show up. And there's nobody to contact because YouTube is Google, and Google does not have a way to speak to real people regarding any sort of issue. And in the rare chance you can speak to somebody regarding any type of issue, they will point you to a help article because they are completely incapable of doing anything. But long story short, we have a mug that says it's not lying. It's commercial real estate that you could find here. And if you want a different mug, we're going to be making a mug that says it has a picture of a lobbyist, and then it says innovation. It'll have a picture of a lobbyist, and it'll say dangers, dangers. And it'll have a picture of another lobbyist, and it'll say magtrometer. I hope for Paul to make that one tomorrow. Paul, if you're watching this today, which you shouldn't be because it's somebody's birthday. Happy birthday, by the way, if they're watching this. I would like that mug to be made. So I'll email you the idea. That being said, $450, that's worth one ISL chip. Okay, so let's just get on to the topic of today's video. And so, what are we going over today? A lot of you have sent me a copy of this article and asked if I would give my 2 cents on it. It says, here's one reason the U.S. military can't fix its own equipment, from the New York Times. It says manufacturers can prevent the Department of Defense from repairing certain equipment, which puts members of the military at risk, by L. Ekman. Captain Ekman is a logistics officer in the United States Marine Corps. It says, a few years ago, I was standing in a son of a... Alright, let's do this again. I gotta log in. One moment. Creative. How do I... Come on. Let's try that again. Take 2. Take 2. Come on. Oh, no, not with this internet. No. You're going to make me log in with this internet? I type my username. No. If I get my password wrong, it's going to... Come on. Come on. You can do it. Alright, I'm just going to plug in my headphones to charge while I'm waiting for this article to load. Man, it's been a long time since I would say stuff like that. Like, let me just go and get myself a snack while I wait for this article to load. Let me take a shower while I wait for this video to download. I can't wait to be done with this shit. Alright. Alright, so let me just restart this video because this has been a total fail. Stop recording. Start recording. Streamed. Unexpected error occurred. Hey everybody, how's it going? So today I would like to go over an article that many of you have been sending me. This is on the military from the New York Times. It says, here's one reason that the U.S. military can't fix its own equipment. Manufacturers can prevent the Department of Defense from repairing certain equipment, which puts members of the military at risk. By L. Ekman. My apologies if I mispronounced your name. Captain Ekman is a logistics officer in the United States Marine Corps. This article says, a few years ago, I was standing in a South Korean field, knee-deep in mud, incredulously asking one of my maintenance marines to tell me again why he couldn't fix a broken generator. We needed the generator to support training with the United States Army and South Korean military, and I was generally unaccustomed to hearing anyone in the Marine Corps give excuses for not effectively getting a job done. I was stunned when his frustrated reply was, because of the warranty, ma'am. At the time, I hadn't heard of right to repair, and didn't know that a civilian concept could affect my job in the military. The idea behind right to repair is that you, or a third party you choose, should be able to repair something you own instead of being forced to rely on the company that originally sold it. This could involve not repairing something like an iPhone, because doing so would void a warranty, repairs which require specialized tools, diagnostic equipment, data or schematics not reasonably available to consumers, or products that are deliberately designed to prevent an end user from fixing them. In the United States, conversations about right to repair issues are increasing, especially at federal agencies and within certain industries. In July, the Federal Trade Commission hosted a workshop to address the issues that arise when a manufacturer restricts or makes it impossible for a consumer or independent repair shop to make product repairs. It has long been considered a problem with the automotive industry, electronics, and farming equipment. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have even brought it up during their presidential campaigns, siding with farmers who want to repair their own equipment. While the senators are advocating national laws, at least 20 states have considered their own right to repair legislation this year. I first heard about the term from a fellow Marine interested in problems with monopoly power and technology. A few past experiences then snapped into focus. Besides the broken generator in South Korea, I remembered working at a maintenance unit in Okinawa, Japan, watching as engines were packed up and shipped back to contractors in the United States for repairs because that's what the contract says. This process took months. With every engine sent back, Marines lost the opportunity to practice the skills they might need one day on the battlefield, where contractor support is inordinately expensive, unreliable, or non-existent. I also recalled how Marines have the ability to manufacture parts using water jets, lathes, and milling machines, as well as newer 3D printers, but that these tools often sit idle in maintenance bays alongside broken-down military equipment. Although parts from the manufacturer aren't available to repair the equipment, we aren't allowed to make the parts ourselves due to specifications. How pervasive is this issue for the most powerful military in the world? And what does it mean for a military that is expected to operate in the most austere and hostile environments to not possess the experience, training, or tools to fix its own technical equipment? These issues have multiple causes, from historic changes in the United States economy, laws and rules adopted as part of military procurement, reform, and military industrial base consolidations, which I included in my comment written with my colleague, Major Lucas. I'm going to mispronounce the last name, so I'm not going to say it because he's a Marine and can probably kick my ass, to the FTC, but the issues mirror what happened in the civilian sphere. In the case of the armed services, the Department of Defense from 1940s to the 1970s significantly invested in research and development and unquestionably owned the right to repair the equipment it developed. In the years since, much of the research and development has shifted to the commercial sector. Increasingly, the commercial sector develops cutting-edge technology that also has military uses, such as communication technologies, software, satellite launches, and drones. To compound the impact of increasingly technical military systems, a new set of political philosophies favorable to corporate consolidation emerged in the 1970s, leading to merger waves across the civilian sector. Strategists in the national security world responded by arguing that the Defense Department needed to become a better customer in order to have access to this commercially developed technology. Consequently, the department decided that it needed to be more cooperative and less aggressive when negotiating terms with commercial companies that produce military equipment or perform services in support of the military. In alignment with this new paradigm, policymakers simplified the Federal Acquisition Regulation in 1994 and 1995. Exempting commercial items from a large portion of the rules, as well as expanding the definition of what is a commercial item to include goods that could be seen as specialized military goods. Congress also encouraged federal agencies to purchase commercial items to the maximum extent practicable. These changes fueled high rates of commercial purchases, which, coupled with consolidation in the defense industry, contributed to the Defense Department's increased use of commercial technology and the negotiation of single-source contracts. Ultimately, the power dynamic shifted between the Defense Department and commercial industry, forcing the department to accept warranties, contracts, or prices that it could previously avoid, all thanks to changes in research and development funding, regulations, and a lack of competition. The effects of right to repair paradigm will become only more significant and restrictive as older military vehicles and systems are replaced with equipment that is more complex and involving more electronics. Already complicated equipment designs lead to situations where the manufacturer is the only source for repairs. Fortunately, the FTC's workshop and industry conversations are putting this issue on the radar. A solution will require protection against onerous contracting regimes for all Americans, whether farmers, iPhone owners, or the Pentagon. Fundamentally, service members just want to ensure that their gear is ready to meet mission requirements. While a broken generator or a tactile vehicle may seem like smaller issues, the implications are much larger when a combat ship or a fighter jet needs to be fixed. What happens when those systems break somewhere with limited communications or transportation? Will the Department of Defense get stuck in the mud because of a warranty? That is pretty interesting, and I think it is a condemnation of the culture, because one of the things that I mention in a lot of these videos when people say, well, just don't buy Apple, one of the things that I mention is that Apple, in my particular section of the world where I work, laptop, cell phone repair of devices that cost a lot of money, they are, in my opinion, one of the worst actors. So it's easy for me to bring up what they do, because while other companies may do similar things, Apple is usually the poster child, because they will do things that are just above and beyond egregious and disgusting. However, the thing is that this does transfer over into other fields. If you think that Apple is the only one doing this, or if you think that's even only present in this industry, then I would suggest that you read articles like this and really get an idea of what's going on, whether it's with appliances, whether it's with farm equipment, or whether it is with devices for the military. I do pick on Apple quite a bit. There are other companies that do similar things to what Apple does, but Apple tends to have that trifecta of super high price, super terrible support for independent repair, while simultaneously trying at every beck and turn to stop independent repair, and also having devices that are just fundamentally not durable. And the thing is, what they do is something that is found in more and more industries everywhere. It's not just Apple. It's a culture change that we've had where we accept something that we used to not accept. People would not accept being sold devices on the terms that we're being sold them now 50, 70, 90 years ago. And for some reason, it's just been like a slow drip of just accepting it. And I think that there is a point in time where you do have to push back about it. So the TLDR of this article, for people who don't want to listen to me read the whole thing, I'll do that later, is that there's a generator that's broken, but it can't be fixed on site because of the warranty in the contract. Right to repair is affecting military and civilian operations. There is an issue where you would have to send the device back to the manufacturer. You would have to send it to a different country because that's what the contract says, and that's going to take months. The issue that the issue you get into here when it comes to the military is you need to have experience using that equipment, because what are Marines, what are the Army, what are the Air Force there for? They're there when shit hits the fan and something happens that requires a life or death. I forgot what I was talking about there. What are the Marines for? They're there when the shit hits the fan and you have some sort of life or death situation. And when you're in that type of situation, do you really want to be on the battlefield with people who don't understand how to use that equipment as well when you need it because it's a life or death situation because of a warranty contract? No, you don't. And this is where it's gone. This has nothing to do with Apple. This has nothing to do with Samsung, nothing to do with any of these companies. It's about the culture. It's about the mindset. Marines have tools to create the replacement parts needed. They have lathes, they have water jets, milling machines, so that they could actually create replacement parts, which is what you want. You would want a group like the Marines to be self-sufficient, because if you are getting bombed, you ain't got no time to call the manufacturer for a warranty. But they're not able to use them due to the contractual obligations. So you actually have the tools required to fix all of this stuff. You have all the parts required, all the know-how required, but you're not capable of doing it because of this one stupid little thing. Does that sound familiar to any other industry that I like to talk about on a regular basis, or another company? Hint. The most powerful military in the world has this issue that it cannot create parts to fix items that they bought because the contract says they can't make replacement parts. In the 40s and the 70s, the Department of Defense invested heavily in R&D, and they had the rights to fix their own stuff. Policy changes and just general culture changes in the military to the commercial sector encourage use of commercial businesses for these devices that are then simultaneously creating these ridiculous contracts. Congress encouraged federal agencies to get commercial items, which increased use of commercial technology in the Department of Defense. Commercialization of goods forced the Department of Defense to accept contracts and warranties that they could avoid because they had an R&D budget and new regulations. And this is an issue when it comes to sunsetting of older technology, because when it comes to new technology, when it comes to all the old technology, you're not going to see this issue as much because they have the parts, they have that's still with the old culture. They have the parts available, they're allowed to fix them. But as that stuff goes away and the new technology comes into place and is used more often, this is going to become a much larger issue. Paul was telling me that he was showing me pictures of radios, because Paul here, who works here, was in the Marine Corps, and he was showing me pictures of radios that he was repairing. These are radios from the late 1940s, early 1950s that are still used. When it comes to the newer ones, they can't do anything to them. They just have to send it back to the manufacturer, and that's that. And it's not as big an issue right now, but as this old technology gets sunsetted and as it's no longer used, that means it is going to become a much larger issue, even if there's no policy change. So even if none of the policy changes, just because the new devices are going to start getting used more often, that policy change that occurred a long time ago is just going to start kicking you in the nuts more and more and more. And I find this fascinating. I'll be honest, the first thing I thought when I was going through this article was, okay, little old Lewis in his store with his 10 employees, what am I going to do if I want an ISO 9240 and Tim Cook doesn't want to give it to me? Man, if I'm the Marine Corps and Tim Cook don't want to give me an ISO 9240, I'm just saying, that's the first thing that came into my head. I'm not saying I would do it. I'm not saying it's the right way to get things done. I just think it takes a lot of balls to be a company, even a defense contractor, and say, we are going to create ridiculously restrictive, draconian, asinine terms when dealing with the Marine Corps. That's just something that absolutely blew my mind. Because, if I were doing business with the United States Marine Corps, I probably would act a little less like a fuckboy. I'm just saying. It's you got to give it to them. You have to have some balls to do that. But really, what this article is telling me is that people in the Marine Corps are probably going to be less able and not less. People in the Marine Corps are going to be less educated and less familiar with the equipment that they need to use on the battlefield at some point in time. But also that people in the Marine Corps are they're probably going to be less familiar with the general concept of how to be self-sufficient in this small area. I'm not saying that Marines are not self-sufficient. They are very self-sufficient people. But if you're twisting their arm and forcing them by policy to not be self-sufficient in this area, and you're not allowing them to learn how to work on these devices and what to do so that when shit hits the fan and you can't send it back for warranty and you have to fix it where you are, that you're not able to, that's not good. Who would advocate for this? And I would think, as someone in my chat says, you'd think the purchasing power of the Department of Defense would give them leverage. I don't know. That was just the first thought that came into my head when I read this article. I don't understand how it is that if you're giving garbage terms and BS contracts to the Marine Corps, the first thing that came into my head, as immature as it may be, is I would be scared to do that. If I would, God forbid that the Marines ever use Apple computers for anything, but if they actually ever needed my services and they sent a MacBook for repair and they needed it for some codes to launch some missile or something, and then I send it back to them and it doesn't work properly, and they say, okay, so it looks like the backlight fuse is blown, what do we replace it with? And I go, I'm not telling you, you need to send it to me for that from Japan while they're in the middle of working on national security. I would just expect some people to show up in my office and just people got balls. And so if there's anything that is a takeaway from this, it's that if there's anything to take away from this, it's that this is not something that just affects people who use Apple products. And if you think it's something that only affects people who use Apple products, You haven't been zooming out and looking at the big picture. And many companies have been doing this. And it's because we've lost a culture of caring about this. We've lost that part of our culture where we care about working on our own stuff, trying to make our own stuff work again. That general curiosity that comes from, this didn't work. Let me open it up and figure it out rather than, oh, damn, let's get another one. And it's not just the consumerist mindset is not. It's not. I like buying new stuff too every now and then. It's not bad because you want to consume more stuff, but rather losing that kind of curiosity for let me just figure out how this works and see if I can get it to work again. It causes companies to realize, oh, we don't have to value that anymore. How far can we go with it? How far can we go with it? And I think it's time to start rewinding a little bit back to the way things were when the Marine Corps was not told by the manufacturer, oh, I'm sorry that your generator broke down and you're in Japan. I'm so sorry. You're not allowed to fix it because of the contract. You got to send it back to the United States. It's disgusting. Anyway, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments down below on this article. And as always, I hope you learned something.